At 1 o'clock in the morning, exactly on the dot, someone knocked on the door of apartment 502. Food delivery. The voice was low and muffled through the door, like the speaker was talking into cloth. All three of us lived there, a cramped 3-bedroom in an older building that always smelled faintly of dust and boiled cabbage. Ethan, who we called Specs because of his thick glasses, was closest to the door. He opened it with his gaming headset still on, eyes half on whatever match he was playing. He made a lazy shooing motion. Not mine. The delivery guy didn't argue. He didn't even hesitate. 1 second Ethan was standing there, bored and distracted. The next, he went stiff, like his body had forgotten how to function, and dropped out of frame with a sound I still hear in my sleep. The delivery guy stepped over him as if he were nothing more than a misplaced rug, takeout bag still dangling from his hand, and walked toward the second bedroom. He rapped his knuckles against the door like he was being polite. "Excuse me," he said. "Did you order food?" Mark, our third roommate, a gym instructor with the shoulders of a statue and the patience of a saint, looked up from his bed, baffled. "No," Mark said. "Who are you?" He didn't get to finish the question. The delivery guy moved fast. Too fast. There was a brief, sickening scuffle, and then Mark slumped forward like someone had unplugged him. I had just turned off the shower. When I stepped out of the bathroom and pushed the door open, the hallway didn't make sense. It was wrong, like my brain refused to label what it was seeing. Ethan's headset lay on the floor at an angle. Mark's door was half open. The air smelled sharp and metallic. And the delivery guy was standing there, facing me, with that same takeout bag in one hand and something glinting in the other. His head tilted slightly, as if listening for a cue only he could hear. "It wasn't them," he said, almost conversationally. Then he looked straight at me. "So it was you?" My mouth went dry. My thoughts scattered into static. I shook my head on instinct. "Not me. I don't." I didn't finish. He came at me, and the world became motion and panic and a single, brutal certainty. I was about to die. I opened my eyes and sucked in air like I'd been drowning. Steam. The bathroom. The same dim light above the mirror. The same dripping faucet I kept meaning to fix. My hands flew to my chest. No pain. No wound. My skin was intact. For a heartbeat I just stood there, trembling, trying to convince myself it had been a nightmare. Then I heard Ethan's laugh from the living room. Mark's footsteps in the hall. Ordinary sounds. And I knew, deep in my bones, that I hadn't dreamed it. I yanked the bathroom door open and stumbled out. Ethan and Mark were already there, both staring at me like they'd seen a ghost. Ethan's face was pale behind his glasses. Mark's jaw was clenched so tight I saw the muscle jump. We locked eyes. No one had to say it. We had all come back. Then the doorbell rang. A soft chime. Calm. Normal. And behind the door, that same muffled voice. Food delivery. The three of us just stared at each other, faces frozen between disbelief and terror. Ethan was the first to move. He snatched up his phone, fingers shaking. "I'm calling the cops." Mark slapped a hand over the screen. "With what evidence?" Ethan's breath hitched. "We tell them." "We tell them what?" Mark hissed. "That we got murdered 5 minutes from now? That we reset? They'll think we're drunk or trying to prank them." He wasn't wrong. The living room was spotless. No mess. No sign of struggle. Just 3 young men in an apartment with cheap furniture and overdue bills. I forced myself to breathe slowly, like I'd seen people do in movies. Like that could help. "The key is the order," I said, my voice thin but steady. "He keeps asking who ordered the food. He's after that person." Ethan's eyes snapped down to his phone. He opened his delivery app so fast he almost dropped it. "I haven't ordered anything all week," he said, thrusting the screen toward us. Mark pulled up his own history. "I'm on a strict meal plan. I cook everything." I opened mine too. My last order was 3 days ago. "So," Ethan whispered, swallowing hard. "Who ordered it?" My mind raced. Maybe it's a neighbor. Wrong address. Old building, bad labeling. But Mark shook his head, eyes narrowed. "No. In the first loop, before." He stopped, shuddering. I saw the sticker. It said 502. The air changed. The three of us started looking at each other in a way that felt ugly and unavoidable. Was one of us lying? I didn't order anything, I said quickly. Here. Check. I held my phone out. Ethan and Mark swapped screens too, flicking through histories and payment logs with frantic, jittery hands. Nothing. No charge. No order. No record. Ethan dragged both hands through his hair. Then who is he looking for? I was about to speak when a cheerful voice floated down the hallway, bright as a candle in a dark room. Leo? Mark? Ethan? Are you boys home? Mrs. Gable. Our landlady. She always came on the 5th to collect rent. Today was the 5th, a weekday, which was why she'd stopped by so late. All the color drained out of Ethan's face. We held our breath. And then, in the hallway, the muffled voice said again, patient as ever. Excuse me. Did you order the food? Mrs. Gable paused. Oh, a delivery? No, dear. That isn't me. The words had barely left her mouth when she let out a startled cry. Something thudded. A sound like a body hitting the floor. We didn't move. We couldn't. For a moment, my entire world narrowed to the thin strip of space under our front door, where a shadow shifted. Mrs. Gable had always been kind. She kept the rent low because she knew we were fresh graduates barely holding on. She brought us soup when one of us got sick. She asked about our families like she cared. My hands fumbled for my phone. It took me 3 tries to dial. 911, what's your emergency? My voice cracked. There's someone. Click. Dead line. The lock on our door turned. Slowly. Deliberately. The handle moved. The door began to swing inward. The delivery guy stepped inside, as calm as if he'd come to drop off dinner. He looked at us and smiled, not warm, not friendly, just wrong. What do you think you're doing? He asked. Every hair on my body rose. Behind him, Mrs. Gable, somehow, struggled up, shaking. She grabbed at his leg with both hands, clinging like she was trying to anchor herself to life. Run! She screamed, voice raw. He shook her off with impatient force. She hit the floor again, and this time she didn't get up. Mark moved first, charging, trying to tackle him. It didn't matter. The delivery guy's movements were efficient, practiced, like he'd done this before. The world snapped into horror again. And then. Dark. Steam. Bathroom. Dripping faucet. I lurched forward, gasping. Mark burst out of his room at the same moment, eyes wild. Ethan's voice came from the living room, broken. It happened again. The second time, Mark said, swallowing hard, his face grim. This is the second time. I stumbled to the couch and collapsed like my legs had finally remembered they could stop working. We can't let him keep killing us, I rasped. We have to break it. We sat in a jagged silence, replaying both loops, searching for a pattern like our lives depended on it, because they did. The target is whoever ordered the food, I said again, more to myself than to them. We're just in the way. Mark nodded slowly. And he's trained. I don't care how strong I am, he moved like a professional. The doorbell rang. Food delivery. I checked my watch with shaking hands. Mrs. Gable would arrive in 2 minutes. Call her, I said. Now. Tell her not to come up. Ethan's fingers flew across his phone. Mrs. Gable, it's Ethan. Listen, we're sick. Like, really sick. We don't want to get you. He stopped. His face tightened. She didn't pick up, he whispered. He hit play on the voicemail that had just come in. Mrs. Gable's warm voice filled the room. All 3 of you are sick? Oh, you must not have eaten. I made a big pot of stew. I'll bring some up. I'm already on the 5th floor. My stomach dropped. Ding. The elevator doors opened. We heard her out there, in the hall, bright and unsuspecting. Oh, hello, young man. Are you here with a delivery? Then the muffled voice, gentle as ever. Excuse me. Are you the one who ordered the food? We lunged for the peephole. Mrs. Gable stood near the elevator. The delivery guy faced her. Same spot. Same timing. Same trap. I backed away from the door, heart slamming against my ribs. This time, I said, forcing the words through my throat, We don't hide. Ethan and Mark stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Then Mark nodded once, sharp and decisive. He sprinted to the kitchen and came back with the smallest knife we owned, like it was a joke. Ethan grabbed the thick handle of the mop like a bat. I yanked open the door. "Mrs. Gable, get in." She turned, confused, still holding her little pot like she'd come to mother us through a cold. Before she could speak, Ethan pulled her inside. Mark slammed the door. But the delivery guy's knee wedged into the gap with brutal strength. He forced it open and stepped into our apartment like he belonged there. His eyes moved under the brim of his baseball cap, scanning the four of us with calm impatience. "Who ordered the food?" I stepped forward, placing myself in front of Ethan and Mark. "I did," I said, voice shaking but loud. "What do you want?" For the first time, he didn't attack immediately. He stared at me for a long moment, as if weighing something. Then he held out the takeout bag. "Valuable item," he said. "You need to confirm it's undamaged before I can leave." My fingers closed around the bag. It felt wrong. Too light. I unzipped it, peered inside, and froze. There was nothing inside except a single crumpled note. I didn't even get a chance to read it. The delivery guy moved, and pain flared. Then the world fell away again. And the last thing I heard, as everything dimmed, was his voice, cold with certainty. "Liar. Steam. Bathroom. Third loop." I staggered out and collapsed on the couch, shaking. Ethan and Mark emerged a moment later, both looking like they'd aged years and minutes. Ethan's voice cracked. "After he killed you. He killed us too. Again." Mark leaned forward. "Leo. The bag. What was in it?" "It wasn't empty," I said, trying to steady my breathing. "There was a note." "A note?" Ethan whispered. "What did it say?" I didn't have time. Ethan swallowed hard, staring at nothing. "The first time he asked, then killed us all. The second time he didn't even ask. The third time you said you ordered it and he still." His eyes lifted to mine, terrified. "What if he's not here for the order at all?" A chill crawled up my spine. Mark's voice was low. "Maybe he's a hired guy. And he's using the delivery as cover. But why us?" I said. "We don't even know him." We fell silent again, combing through every detail we could remember, his words, his timing, the strange insistence on the bag, the note he wouldn't let us read. And in the middle of that frantic mental scramble, an idea formed, bizarre and terrible and oddly clear. "We can't wait," I said, standing up. "I'm going to confront him." Ethan grabbed my arm. "Leo, no. He has a knife." "We'll go with you," Mark said instantly, jaw set. "Together we." "It won't matter," I said, shaking my head. "You saw how fast he is. If we all go, we all die." I checked my watch. 1 minute, I breathed. "You two hide in your rooms. Don't come out unless you have to. If something happens to me, figure out another way." They started to argue. The doorbell cut through them. "Food delivery." I squared my shoulders, opened the door, stepped into the hallway, and pulled it shut behind me. The delivery guy stood there, cap low, takeout bag in hand like a prop in a play. "I ordered it," I said, meeting his gaze. "Now tell me the truth. The bag is empty. So what's on the note?" For the first time, he looked startled. His lips parted slightly, like he was about to say something he hadn't planned to say. "You can't be." He lunged. I was ready. I moved aside, grabbed the emergency wrench from the fire hose cabinet, something I'd never noticed before tonight, and swung hard at his wrist. The knife flew from his hand and skittered across the floor. He recoiled, cursing under his breath. I slammed him back against the wall, wrench braced under his jaw, my whole body shaking with adrenaline. "Talk," I snarled. "Why are you doing this?" Footsteps pounded up the stairs. Walter, our building's new head of security, rounded the corner with a stun baton in hand. He was older, broad-shouldered, and carried himself like someone who'd spent a lifetime learning how to stop fights. Relief hit me so hard my knees almost buckled. "Walter," I shouted. "Help. He's a murderer, call the police." Walter's eyes flicked from me to the delivery guy. Then his mouth curved into something small. Something cold. "Okay," he said, voice calm. Okay. Take it easy. He pulled out his phone as if to dial. And then, without warning, he drove the stun baton into my side. White heat ripped through my body. My muscles seized. My vision fractured. I hit the floor, blinking through spots of darkness, hearing the delivery guy exhale like he'd been waiting for that moment all along. The delivery guy flexed his wrist and picked up his knife with slow satisfaction. I stared up at them, disbelief turning my stomach. You know each other, I whispered. The delivery guy stepped closer. Then, a crash. Our apartment door flew open. Ethan and Mark charged out like they decided fear could be sacrificed. Mark swung a metal pipe, where had he even gotten a metal pipe? And connected with the delivery guy's back. The delivery guy grunted and twisted, eyes flashing. Leo, go, Mark shouted. Ethan dove at Walter's legs, trying to drag him down. Run. And for a heartbeat, standing there on the hallway floor with pain buzzing through my body, I realized something that made my throat tighten. We were just roommates. We weren't best friends. We weren't brothers. We were three people trying to survive our 20s in the same cramped apartment. And they were risking everything for me anyway. The elevator chimed open nearby, an escape route, bright and obvious. But if I ran, the loop might end. And if the loop ended like this, they would be gone for real. I didn't think. I pushed myself up and threw my body between Mark and the delivery guy. The baseball cap went flying, skidding across the linoleum. And when I looked up, I froze. I knew that face. The sharp jaw. The scar cutting through the left eyebrow. The eyes, cold and familiar in a way that made my stomach twist. Tyler, I breathed. My cousin. The Tyler who had vanished 5 years ago after our family's trust fund was drained and my grandparents were left shattered. The Tyler everyone said had run with the money, a thief and a coward. The Tyler standing in front of me now, holding a knife, staring at me like he'd been waiting years to do exactly this. His expression flickered, shock, maybe, like he hadn't expected me to recognize him. Then it hardened into something darker. You remember, he said, voice low and rough. Nothing like the boy I'd known. Good. I was hoping you would. Mark staggered, clutching his shoulder, still trying to stand. Ethan fought to keep Walter off balance, breath coming in desperate bursts. Tyler's gaze locked on me. You think I forgot? He spat. How your parents framed me. How they told the cops, told the family, told everyone that I stole it. They took my name, my life, everything, and left me with nothing. My mind reeled. I'd been 13 back then, old enough to hear adults argue, too young to understand what any of it really meant. I'd only ever known the version my parents told. Tyler had done it. Tyler had ruined us. Tyler had run. But the hatred in his voice didn't sound rehearsed. It sounded lived in. That's not true, I said, but it came out weak. Tyler laughed, no humor in it. You don't get to say what's true. He grabbed me by the collar and slammed me back against the wall. The cold edge of the knife hovered close enough that I could feel it without needing to look. I spent 5 years in hell because of them, he said, eyes bright with fury. Doing things I'm not proud of. Surviving. And then I finally crawl my way back to get justice, and I find out they're dead. His grip tightened. And you, he said, voice trembling with rage, you're still living in their world. In their money. In their apartment. Like nothing ever happened. My heart stuttered. Tyler's eyes flicked toward the takeout bag on the floor, the one he'd carried through every loop like it mattered more than the act itself. I didn't come here to kill you, he said, and for a split second his voice cracked. Not at first. I came to make you admit it. I came to make you face what they did. He nodded toward the bag. The note was proof, he said. Records. Names. Something I could finally use. Then his gaze snapped to Walter. And he told me you didn't have it, Tyler said, voice turning sharp. He told me the only way to get justice was to make you suffer. Walter's face was calm, almost pleased. Like a man watching a plan unfold exactly as designed. Your parents were careful, Walter said smoothly. But they weren't perfect. Tyler's eyes narrowed. Something shifted in him, subtle but real. He looked at Walter the way you look at someone you suddenly don't trust. You've been feeding me stories, Tyler said quietly. Haven't you? Walter's smile thinned. Tyler. Shut up, Tyler snapped. He stepped away from me, still holding the knife, but his attention had turned fully to Walter now, like he'd just noticed the strings for the first time. You used me, Tyler said, voice low, shaking with fury. You used my anger. Walter lifted his hands, as if he were trying to calm a dog. Listen. You're upset. That's understandable. Tyler's eyes burned. What are you after, Walter? He demanded. The rest of the money? The property? What is it you actually want? Hey everyone. I'm Nina. Hit the like button and maybe you'll walk out your front door and find a winning lottery ticket. Kidding. Mostly. Anyway, here's what really happened. I used to live in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of downtown. Old building, thin walls, everything smelling faintly like someone else's dinner. There were 3 of us crammed in there, me, my other roommate Molly, and Crystal. Crystal was a micro-influencer. TikTok, Instagram, live streams, the whole thing. She had maybe 50,000 followers at her peak, which in her head translated to celebrity. Everything was content to her. Every meal, every argument, every relatable struggle. And her favorite relatable struggle was stealing from delivery drivers. Crystal never picked up her food from the door herself. She'd always wrote the same note in the app, leave it outside. Then, as soon as the driver left, she'd grab the bag, open the app again, and hit refund, order never arrived. I'd watched her do it so many times I lost count. Crystal, you're going to get someone fired, I told her once, watching her snap a selfie over a container of steaming noodles she'd just gotten for free. She didn't even look at me. Relax, Nina. This is my money-saving hack. You should be taking notes. Molly rolled her eyes and went back to her laptop. She'd seen this show 100 times. Crystal kept going, all breezy and smug. If they don't take a picture and hand it to me personally, that's on them. I'm doing them a favor. They'll remember to follow procedure next time. You're playing with people's livelihoods, I said. They know where we live. Crystal finally looked up, smirking. And I know where my followers are. If any of those delivery guys try something, I'll expose them. Creepy driver harasses female influencer will hit 1 million views in an hour. You think they want that smoke? She flipped her phone around to show the refund approved screen. See? Easy. That's called being smart, you two. Try it sometime. I didn't. Molly didn't. We both worked office jobs, barely above entry level, but there were lines we wouldn't cross. Crystal had none. It went on like that for months. And then, one night, she crossed the wrong person. He was just another delivery driver on the app. Middle-aged, tired eyes, a name I barely saw, Jonah, when the notification popped up on Crystal's screen. He brought food to our door over and over. 10 times. 12. 15. Each time, Crystal took the food and filed for a refund, sometimes adding a 1-star review and some fake complaint about attitude or lateness. The app finally flagged his account. Too many refunds, too many complaints. He got terminated. He started calling the number on the orders. Calling, texting, leaving voicemails that started as pleading and slid steadily into threats. Crystal stopped answering unknown numbers. She blocked everything that looked remotely like a delivery area code. When he said he knew our address and he was coming to talk, she freaked. So she booked a hotel across town for a while, packed a bag, grabbed her ring light and makeup case, and left me alone in the apartment with a breezy, if anyone shady shows up, don't open the door. Duh. That was the night he came. He waited until late, until the hall was quiet, the building dim, that time of night when small sounds feel too loud. I was half asleep when the banging started, shaking the door on its hinges. Nina, he shouted, voice rough and ragged. Open the door. You think you can ruin my life and hide? I sat up in bed, heart pounding. For a second I thought he had the wrong apartment, the wrong person, the wrong everything. Then he started calling me by my full name. Nina West. You little thief. Get out here. I remember padding barefoot to the door, peering through the peephole, seeing this man with wild eyes and bruised knuckles hammering at the wood like it had personally offended him. Neighbors were peeking out of their doors up and down the hall, whispering, but nobody stepped in. I remember calling Crystal, over and over, getting nothing. No answer. No text back. I remember thinking he must have mixed us up, that he thought I was Crystal, the one who'd stolen his food and his job. I remember deciding to stay quiet and hope he left. He didn't leave. Eventually, the banging stopped. The hallway went quiet. I told myself it was over. I lay back down. And sometime after that, the door opened. He had my name, my address, my layout memorized from all the deliveries. He had time and rage and nothing left to lose. I woke up with him standing over my bed, the glint of a butcher's knife catching the street light seeping through the blinds. He didn't just kill me. He made it hurt. He made it slow. He talked while he worked, ranting about parasites and thieves, about how if he couldn't live, neither could I. I felt my body break in ways a body should never have to feel, felt myself being reduced from a person to something discarded, dumped somewhere no one was meant to find. By the time they did find me, I wasn't whole anymore. Crystal showed up then. Not at my funeral, no. Online. She posted photos from outside the crime scene tape with a tragic song laid over them. She went on a live stream and cried to her followers about how she had almost been the one in that bed but had bravely cooperated with the police. She hinted she'd been the one to connect the dots about the suspect's history and turn evidence over. She left out the part where she'd used my name on the orders. She left out the part where her money-saving hack had cost a man his job and pushed him past his breaking point. I became a cautionary tale. Greedy girl scams delivery app, dies horribly, should have known better. Crystal became a hero and a victim all at once. Her follower count exploded. Brand deals rolled in. She lived a long, comfortable life off the story of my death. I thought that was it. Then I opened my eyes again. The first thing I heard was Crystal's voice, high and furious and very, very alive. Are you kidding me? You're threatening me? Do you have any idea who I am? I'll get my followers to end you. I'm filing for a refund, and I'm leaving a review so bad you'll never get another order. Ever. My skin went cold. My body still remembered being carved apart. My nerves still remembered what it felt like to die slow. For a second, I thought this was some hell where I had to listen to Crystal forever. Then the room came into focus. Our living room. The cheap couch. The cluttered coffee table. Molly sitting in her usual spot, in leggings and an oversized hoodie, looking up from her laptop with a frown. Crystal was on the phone, pacing, bare feet slapping the floor, hair in a messy bun, face twisted with anger. I could hear a man's faint voice from the other end of the call, trying to explain something. Crystal didn't let him finish. Refund. Now, she snapped. And enjoy the 1 star. Next time, do your job. She hung up, snorting, then looked at us. Useless. People like that are just asking to be taught a lesson. Anyway, that's my money hack. You guys really should learn. Molly's eyes slid to me. Nina? You okay? You look like you're going to pass out. Do you want me to take you to urgent care? My hands were shaking. My heart was beating way too fast. I could still feel a ghost of the pain that had killed me. My voice came out hoarse. I thought I was. I died. Crystal snorted. She's fine. She's just being dramatic. She's always exhausted because she eats like a pig. You put away 1 more pound than me, and boom, barn animal. Molly shot her a glare. Shut up, Crystal. I stared around the room, forcing my brain to catch up. The clothes I was wearing. The cup on the table. The time on the microwave by the kitchenette. This was before. Before the murder. Before Jonah lost it. Before I died. Before Crystal blew up online. The day she filed the first complaint that pushed him over the edge. Time hadn't just rewound. It had dropped me right back into the moment my life started to spiral. Molly got up and put a hand on my shoulder. Seriously. You're shaking. We should go to urgent care, just in case. I let her guide me to the elevator. They checked my vitals, my blood work, my heart. The doctor shrugged, said my body was fine, and gave me a prescription for something to help me sleep. On the way back, Molly apologized for having to leave town that afternoon. She and her boyfriend had planned a month-long road trip. I remembered that now. In my last life, she'd been gone when everything went down. She hadn't even known I was dead until days later. This time, I just hugged her tighter at the lobby doors and told her to have fun. When the elevator opened onto our floor and I stepped out, I heard it, a furious pounding that echoed down the hallway, making the old walls shake. A man was slamming his fist into our apartment door. "Open up," he roared. "I brought you food 10 times. 15 times. Every single time, you took it and told the app it never arrived. You ruined me? Open the door, you little thief." Doors cracked open up and down the hall. Neighbors peered out, whispering. No one moved closer. My feet froze. My breath snagged in my throat. I knew that voice. I knew that jawline, those eyes, the way his anger felt like heat in the air even from 20 feet away. Jonah Hayes. The man who had killed me. He hit the door again, hard enough to make the frame rattle. "Nina West, open this door. You think hiding behind a deadbolt will save you?" My vision wavered. Nina West. Me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Crystal. "Don't come up. Crazy delivery psycho out here. Stay away." Of course she was behind the door. She'd be standing at the peephole right now, filming if she could, waiting for the perfect clip. "It's you, isn't it?" Jonah slammed his fist into the wood again. "You got me fired. You got me blacklisted. If I can't live, you don't get to live either." In my last life, I thought he'd mistaken me for Crystal. I thought it was some tragic mix-up, that I died as her stand-in purely by accident. But Jonah wasn't shouting Crystal's name. He was shouting mine. And the orders, the refunds, the receipts. Crystal had always used my full name, my number, my email, to set up the delivery account. I thought it was just to save time back when we first moved in and I helped her file paperwork. She'd made me the face of the scam without ever telling me. My fear boiled into something hotter. Sharper. Anger. For a second, I actually wanted to walk away and leave her in there with him. Let him bust down the door and meet the person who'd actually taken his livelihood. Then I pictured the way I died. The butcher knife. The slow, deliberate cruelty. The way he'd enjoyed having power over someone weaker. He wasn't just a man on the edge. He was a monster who liked how it felt. He wouldn't stop with her. I took a breath. Then another. My fingers unclenched from around the pill bag. If the universe was giving me a do-over, I wasn't going to waste it hiding behind a door. I walked forward. "Hey," I called, keeping my voice as steady as I could. "Who are you looking for?" Jonah stopped mid-pound and turned. His eyes narrowed. "You Nina West?" he asked. "Yes," I said. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like every neighbor must hear it. "What's going on?" He took 2 long strides toward me. His hand came up fast, a slap that would have knocked me sideways if I hadn't jerked back on instinct. His palm cut through empty air instead. That only made him angrier. "Oh, now you're scared?" he snarled. "How's it feel? You've been eating for free off me for weeks. 10 orders. 12. Lobster. Steaks. You ever think about who was paying for it?" He yanked a crumpled receipt out of his pocket and shoved it toward my face. Look. Look at your name." I forced myself to look. The order was for a big, pricey seafood boil, almost $200. The delivery address was ours. And the name, in blocky letters near the bottom, was mine. Nina West. Behind him, neighbors started murmuring. "I told you," someone whispered. "The driver's been here before. Free meals. That adds up. It's stealing, that's what it is." I swallowed and kept my voice loud enough for them to hear. "I won't say that's not my name. It is. But that's not my order." Jonah's eyes flashed. "Don't lie to me." Why would I lie when there's an easier way to prove it? I cut in, pushing my fear down, letting indignation creep into my tone. "The receipt has a phone number, right? The customer's number? Call it. If my phone rings, you can say whatever you want to my face. If it doesn't." I let that hang in the air. Jonah looked from me to the ring of doors cracked open around us. He wasn't stupid. His jaw clenched. "Fine," he said, pulling out his phone. "If it's not you, then whoever answers is going to wish it was." He dialed. My phone stayed silent. From inside our apartment, muffled through the door, a familiar ringtone chimed. There was a startled yelp, the sound of a call being fumbled, cut off too fast. Jonah's eyes went flat and cold. "Crystal," I said softly, just loud enough for the nearest neighbors to hear. Who's Crystal? Jonah snapped. Your real customer, I said, turning toward the door, raising my voice so it carried. The girl who had you bring her that giant crab feast, right? The one who took it and then filed for a refund while you were still in the stairwell? The color drained out of Jonah's face. His anger sharpened. That order was $500, he said, practically spitting the number. She made me eat that cost. The app suspended my account for 3 days. You think I forgot? More whispers from the hall. I remember that. He was out there begging. She really did that? Some people have no shame. Jonah turned back to the door, hatred burning bright. Open up, he shouted, pounding on it again. You hear that, Crystal? I know it's you. Using somebody else's name doesn't change what you did. From inside, I heard the lock click. Then Crystal's voice, shrill and shaking, came through the door. You're insane. Get away from my door or I'm calling the cops. You've been harassing me nonstop. Oh, now you want the police? Jonah laughed, humorless. You didn't think about the law when you took food out of my kids' mouths. He hit the door again. Open up, you coward. Come say it to my face. He was loud, but not quite as loud as he'd been a moment before. The word police did that to some men. Even furious ones. Crystal must have sensed it too, because her voice got steadier. Louder. Performing. Officer, yes, there's a crazy man outside my apartment. He's threatening me. I live alone. I'm so scared. Please come quickly. She wasn't just calling for help. She was narrating. Neighbors looked at each other. At Jonah. At me. I stepped closer to him, lowering my voice. You want the cops here really hearing this? I asked. You, an ex-con, because yeah, I know about that now. You want them to walk in and find you beating on a young woman's door? His eyes flared. The muscles in his jaw flexed. That old, familiar fear of authority was still there, buried under the rage. He spat on the door, a wet, ugly sound. Crystal, right? I won't forget that name, he growled. You think you got away with something? You didn't. You just started something. Then he shoved past me and stalked down the hall, shouldering through the little crowd that parted to let him pass. The second he vanished around the corner, the building exhaled. Doors shut. Locks clicked. Murmurs rose. I stood there, heart still racing, my whole body ringing with leftover adrenaline. Then I slid my key into the lock and opened the door. Crystal's hand came flying the second I stepped inside. The slap stung. I let my head turn with it, more out of surprise than pain. Are you out of your mind? She screamed. Why would you tell him my name? Why would you tell him anything? I stared at her, at the phone in her hand, at the ring light still glowing on the coffee table. Her stream dashboard was open on the screen. The title at the top read, Delivery driver harasses single girl living alone, please help me get justice. The viewer count sat in the hundreds of thousands. The chat, for the moment, was paused. Of course she'd gone live. Of course she had. You're unbelievable, she hissed. I told you not to come back yet. Now you ruined everything. My views, my narrative. My life, I said quietly. She scoffed. Oh, please. You act like I'm the villain here. He's the one who decided to blow up over a few refunds. It's his fault he can't handle stress. I was just taking advantage of the system. Everyone does it. You did it with my name, I said. My info. That receipt he waved around? That was me on paper. So? She snapped. I only used your account because it had better coupons. You should be thanking me for the clout, he wouldn't even know you exist if it wasn't for me. That's the problem, Crystal, I said. He knows I exist because of you. She rolled her eyes, arms folding tight over her chest. Whatever. You ruined my live stream, you ruined my hero arc, and you handed my stalker my real name. Do you know what my followers are going to say if I disappear now? Do you know how many people are worried about me? I glanced at her phone. The chat was already blowing up, hearts and messages flying so fast you couldn't read them. Words like stay safe and call 911 and we love you filled the screen. They had no idea. You really went live during all of this? I asked. Obviously, she said. This is gold. Rave influencer stands up to dangerous delivery driver? I'll be trending for a week. I hit top 5 just now. I moved around the coffee table slowly, positioning myself between her and the phone. Good, I said lightly. Then they won't miss what comes next. Before she realized what I was doing, I reached down and tapped the screen. Her camera flipped back on. The mic unmuted. The front door, still slightly ajar, let the muffled hallway gossip drift in. Hey guys, I said, looking straight into the camera. You all saw what just happened at the door, right? Here's the part you missed. Crystal lunged for the phone. I sidestepped, letting her grab empty air. Stop it, she hissed. You told him you'd call the cops for harassment, I said clearly, for the chat, for the unseen hundreds of thousands. But you forgot to mention you used my name and number to scam him out of thousands of dollars in food first. Not just him, either. Dozens of drivers. Lobster, steak, sushi, take the bag, hit never arrived, repeat. That's not defending yourself. That's theft. Her eyes went wide. Her face drained of color. End the stream, she whispered. Now. Why? I tilted my head. You've been teaching your followers your money-saving hack for months. It's only fair they see the whole thing. Crystal's smile, her perfect, practiced influencer smile, cracked. You don't understand how this works, she said through gritted teeth. My followers will turn on you. You have no platform. No voice. If you try to expose me, I'll make you look like a jealous nobody. Maybe, I said. But the neighbors heard everything. The driver has receipts. The app has logs. And I'm done being your scapegoat. I ended the stream myself, finally, before she could snatch the phone away, and set it face down on the table. This is my face, I said. My name. My credit score. My grave you danced on in the last life you stole from me. I'm not letting you do it again. Crystal stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. The last what? I didn't answer. I had more important things to do. I moved fast after that. I texted work, said I had a family emergency, and took the rest of the week off. I called 3 different realtors, offering double their usual fee if they could get me into a secure building with decent locks and a doorman within 24 hours. One of them delivered. By late afternoon, I had a lease lined up across town. While Crystal sulked in her room, blowing up her group chat about her trauma, I packed only the essentials, documents, laptop, a week's worth of clothes. I locked my bedroom door from the inside, stepped out the window onto the fire escape, climbed down, and walked away without looking back. On the ride to the hotel I'd booked near my new place, Crystal called me. Where are you? She demanded. I'm hungry. Come back and cook. Or at least bring something. Order delivery, I said, staring out the taxi window at the city blurring by. Oh, wait. You can't. She made a strangled noise. What is that supposed to mean? When I was at urgent care, I joined a local drivers group on a borrowed account, I said. Told them what you've been doing. Showed them clips from your own streams. They're not taking your orders anymore. Even if the app assigns it, they're declining. No more freebies. No more money hacks. You built a reputation. You little, she cut herself off, then let out a sharp laugh. You think that matters? Please. I'll rebrand. I already have something cooking. Poor college girl, made some bad choices, trying to do better. They eat that up. I'll pay back a couple refunds, cry a little on video, boom. Bigger than ever. You'll see. I'm sure you will be bigger, I said. Just not in the way you think. She launched into a rant about how I should be grateful to have a famous friend, how I should be apologizing and paying her rent if I wanted to stay in her orbit. I let her talk until she ran out of words, then hung up. By the next morning, everything she bragged about came true. She posted a teary apology video, messy hair, no makeup, shaky voice. She called herself a broke student trying to save money, admitted to messing with the system a little but insisted she was paying everything back. She framed it as a lesson about greed, about pressure, about the cost of living in a big city. People ate it up. Her follower count jumped by 100,000 overnight. Comments flooded in. We all make mistakes, Queen. As long as you learned from it. Ignore the haters. Donations poured through her streams, to help her pay back the drivers. She sent me screenshots to gloat. See? She wrote. Told you I'd flip it. This is what real influence looks like. I ignored the screenshots. I didn't ignore one tiny detail hiding at the top of her donor list, a profile picture that showed just a pair of familiar eyes and a baseball cap brim. Username, J_H. I knew that face. Even cropped. Even blurred. Jonah. From that day on, I watched every one of Crystal's late-night streams from the safety of my new apartment, or, at first, from the anonymous hotel room with a deadbolt I checked 3 times before sleeping. I used a burner account. No profile picture, no real name. At first, I just lurked, watching the chat fly past, watching Crystal rebuild her image as the girl who made a mistake but learned from it. Jonah was there almost every time. Dropping small gifts at first. Little digital stickers, hearts, flowers, the occasional fast food icon. He never spoke much. Just watched. Eventually, he started sending bigger things. In this new era of streaming, those meant money, animated sports cars, diamond rings, things that cost a month's rent if you added them all up. Crystal lit up every time one flashed across the screen. Thank you, J_H. She squealed. You're such a generous supporter. I knew what he was doing. He was patient. He was feeding her ego. Letting her see him as a wallet, not a threat. So I did my part to feed it too. I started dropping gifts under my burner account, the way a whale would, just often enough to get her attention, just expensive enough to make her greedy. When she brushed off my first comments about the annoying driver, I sent a digital sports car worth hundreds. Her eyes went wide. Oh my God, she laughed. Whoever you are, I love you. Okay, fine. I'll tell the story again. For half an hour, she ranted about the psycho delivery guy. She called him trash, a born criminal, someone who probably hurt animals as a kid and was destined to end up in prison. She called drivers bottom feeders and failures in life. I clipped every second. I kept rewarding her, more gifts, more praise, more encouragement. Her language got worse. Meaner. Bolder. She was drunk on attention and validation, on seeing the viewer counter climb every time she said something cruel. Then, one night, something shifted. She was lounging in a camisole on her bed, hair down in soft waves, complaining about how boring things had been since the incident. The chat was full of people begging to see more of her life. Her apartment. Her aesthetic. Oh, you guys want more? She giggled, tilting her head. My roommates aren't here this week. They've been gone for days, no idea who they're with. She winked. But I do have keys to their rooms. The chat exploded. Show us. Room tour. Bet they're messy lol. Do it for the content. She put a finger to her lips, fake shy. Naughty? You know I can't just invade their privacy for free. I sent another sports car. So did Jonah. Wow, my rich boys are out tonight, she laughed. Okay. For you? I'll do it. My stomach dropped. I watched, frozen, as she grabbed a key from her nightstand drawer and tiptoed across the hall. She unlocked my old bedroom door, flicked on the light, and swung the camera around. Welcome to Nina's little cave, she cooed. Look at all this. So modest. So basic. She pulled open drawers. Held up my underwear. My journal. My favorite sweater. She made jokes. The chat howled. The gifts rolled in. I felt sick. Violated. And then something clicked. In my last life, the night I died, the police found the key to my room still sticking out of the inside lock. I'd noticed it as Jonah stood over me, the way he'd come in so easily, no splintered wood, no forced entry. At the time, I'd been half delirious with pain. I thought I just forgot to remove it. But watching Crystal twirl my room key on her finger, hearing her brag about always having access to whatever she wanted, I realized it wasn't forgetfulness. It was sabotage. She'd left the key in the lock for him. She'd known he was out there. Known he was angry. Known he had my name and my door number. She decided I was the perfect shield. I stared at the stream, at her smug face, at the little lock icon showing her door was closed but never once bolted in the entire walkthrough. She left it that way out of habit, for convenience. And now, thanks to a chat full of baying strangers and one very dangerous man, she was about to leave it that way again. My hands were ice cold on the phone screen. Fine, I thought, as my anger settled into something cold and precise. If the universe wants to rerun tonight, we'll rerun it with the camera pointed the other way. I typed into the chat, "Your story about that driver really taught me a lot. Your money-saving hacks changed my life. But what did you do when he wouldn't stop harassing you afterward?" She read it. Smiled. "Aw, you're the best," she said. "Okay, guys, one more time, from the top." She launched back into her monologue, this time even more dramatic. She called Jonah disgusting, pathetic, hopeless. She said guys like him were born broken. "You'll see," she told the chat. "Men like that always end up locked up or worse. People like me win." I sent her more gifts. So did Jonah. Then Jonah sent something massive. The top-tier animation took over the whole screen, a virtual luxury car roaring across her chat in neon glory. Crystal squealed. J_H, you're insane. I love you. His first chat message of the night rolled in, pinned at the top by the size of his donation. "Don't log off tonight," it read. "Don't lock the door. I've got a bigger gift for you. I promise you'll scream." Crystal laughed, covering her mouth. "You guys are so bad," she said, eyes sparkling. Okay. If I'm still awake, I'll keep the cam on. We'll see what happens." My heart thudded. I checked the time. In my last life, Jonah killed me just after midnight. This time, I started screen recording at 11:50. At a minute past 12, the camera shook. Someone had stepped into the frame behind Crystal, just off-center, barely more than a shadow. The chat went wild. "OMG, who is that? Is that your boyfriend? We're not supposed to see this lol. Spicy stream tonight." Crystal laughed, leaning back, assuming it was some kind of flirty surprise. "Hey," she said, voice dipping into something coy. "You guys are getting a little extra tonight, huh?" The figure didn't flirt. He moved. One hand flashed up to her mouth. The other locked around her waist, pinning her back against a solid chest. Crystal's eyes flew wide as a cloth pressed over her face. Her words dissolved into muffled sounds. Surprise, confusion. Then panic. The chat's tone shifted instantly. "Is this a prank? Wait, is she okay? Crystal? This isn't funny. Call 911. I watched, my own breathing shallow, as she struggled, as her limbs went from flailing to limp. The man, Jonah, I didn't have to see his whole face to know, propped her in the desk chair, adjusting her like she was a mannequin. He turned slightly, just enough for the camera to catch his profile. It was him. The same jaw. The same eyes. He looked straight into the lens and smiled, a small, satisfied curve of his mouth that made my skin crawl. "Since you all like watching so much," he said calmly, "let me show you what happens when someone plays games with the wrong person." He started to hurt her. I'm not going to describe the details. You don't need them. The point is, he knew exactly where and how to cause damage that would last forever. He wanted to make her suffer without giving her the mercy of a quick end. The chat exploded into horror. People begged him to stop, begged someone to call the police, begged the platform to cut the stream. Some were frozen, typing the same shocked emojis over and over. Some still thought it was staged, right up until the moment real blood hit the floor and Crystal's muffled screaming changed pitch. The platform finally pulled the plug. The screen went black with a blunt little message about violence detected. I sat there with my phone in my hand, my own recording still rolling, staring at my reflection in the dark screen. Down the block from my old place, distant but unmistakable, sirens screamed. In my last life, Jonah had time to wash up and wait for the police, bragging later that he was ready to pay the price for his art. This time, they caught him in the middle of it. The police called me the next day. They traced my name from the lease, from the streams, from Crystal's accusations when she could finally talk. I'd moved out just days before an attempted murder in the same apartment. They wanted to know why. I went down to the station. They asked their questions. Why had I moved out so suddenly? Did I know Jonah? Had I been present at any of the incidents between him and Crystal? I told them everything. Not about dying and coming back, that part was mine, but about the refunds. The scams. The receipt in the hallway, the call that had rung to Crystal's phone instead of mine. I played them the recording of our fight, the one that had accidentally gone live the day Jonah first came to our door. They took statements from the neighbors I'd made sure heard the truth. Then I pulled up the screen recording from the hospital the night before. The one of Jonah in Crystal's stream, his username, his messages, the way he'd set her up. They watched the crucial parts in grim silence. He confessed not long after. He told them how he'd lost his job because of her, how he'd started watching her streams out of obsession and rage, how seeing her profit off the story had broken something in him. How he'd wanted the world to see what he really was capable of. He also told them something else, something that made my hands ball into fists in my lap even though I'd already guessed. He'd gone there once before, he said, intending to hurt someone. He'd found the door wide open. The bedroom with my key still in the lock. A sleeping woman who, according to the app, was the one who'd stolen his income. He'd believed she was Crystal. I'd believed it was a tragic mistake. He said, offhand, that he always thought it was suspicious how prepared everything had been for him that night. How the key in the lock, the unlocked outer door, the timing. All felt like an invitation. I knew better now. This time, the only invitation was Crystal's. I went to see her a week later. The hospital was crowded, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, disinfectant clinging to the air. She was in a private room, paid for by donations and victim assistance funds people had raised for her within hours of the attack. Her entire body was swaddled in bandages. One arm gone. One leg gone. Her face was a map of scars under the wrappings, her nose flattened, her ears barely there. Tubes and wires fed and monitored what was left of her. In my last life, that had been me. She saw me and flinched, eyes widening. Then her expression twisted into something ugly. You came to laugh at me? She spat, voice raw. To get content? Take your little mental screenshots and go, Nina. I don't need your pity. I sidestepped the plastic cup she tried to throw at me with her only hand. It bounced off the side of the bed and hit the floor, harmless. I didn't come to laugh, I said. I came to see karma. Her breathing hitched. You think this is fair? She demanded, trembling. You don't know what it's like. I can't even look in a mirror. My life is over. You're alive, I said. That's more than I got last time around. She blinked. What? Nothing, I said. Point is, you can still talk. And you've been using that just fine, haven't you? I pulled out my phone and showed her the trending page. Her face, what was left of it, had been everywhere for days. Brave influencer survives brutal attack. We must protect women from violent men. Donate here to help Crystal rebuild. You're really something, I said. You turned even this into content. Crying on live. Telling everyone how you were targeted for no reason. And they believed you. They should, she snapped. I am a victim. If you hadn't stirred everything up, none of this would have happened. You owe me. You should be out there defending me, not tearing me down. I smiled a little at that. That's the thing, Crystal. I am out there. Just not how you want. Her eyes narrowed. What did you do? I posted the montage, I said. Every clip of you bragging about your money-saving hacks. Every time you called Jonah and the other drivers trash, animals, less than human. Every time you laughed about free lobster while they cried in our hallway. Her face went white under the bruises. And I used the streaming platform's own refund policies to take back every donation I ever gave you, I continued. Mark them as underage mistaken purchases. Then I used that money to promote the video. Brands, drivers, restaurants. They all chimed in with their own receipts. Meanwhile, the police did a second press conference about Jonah's background. His last crime. The one from before all of this. A brutal act against a child that didn't need repeating in detail to horrify an entire country. Whatever online sympathy had started to build for him as a man pushed too far evaporated fast. People saw them both clearly now. Crystal, the scammer who'd built an empire off other people's misery. Jonah, the predator who'd used her cruelty as an excuse to unleash his own. Donations are frozen, I said quietly. Most of them are being refunded outright as fraud. Brands are pulling out. Your victim arc is trending again, but this time it's not in your favor. Her breathing sped up. You can't do this to me, she said. Do you understand? Without my platform, I have nothing. I can't work. I can't live like this. You owe me, Nina. If I hadn't pissed you off and made you move out, you would have been here when he came. We both look like this right now. I saved you. You should be grateful. Something in me went very still. She really believed that. In her mind, sabotaging my locks, using my name, and drawing a violent man to our door had somehow been a service. You didn't save me, I said. You just made sure someone else paid your bill. That's all you've ever done. You have to clear my name online, she pushed, eyes bright with a kind of desperate madness. Tell them I'm not as bad as they think. Tell them I was scared. Tell them I'm your friend. You owe me my future. You owe me my face. I looked at her, at the bandages, the machines, the raw fury. You should focus on living long enough to have a future, I said softly. And maybe on what you'll do differently, if you get one. She cursed me all the way to the door. I recorded every word. When I put that video up, a carefully trimmed 30 seconds of her shouting that I should take responsibility for the rest of her life because she'd almost sacrificed me instead of herself, the internet did the rest. People finally understood the woman behind the crying thumbnails. The one who treated a roommate like a disposable shield, a driver like trash, tragedy like a branding opportunity. Even the most stubborn defenders had to look at their screens and ask themselves, if she talks to someone she knows like this, what would she do to a random follower? To me? Her last source of public sympathy dried up. I stopped checking after a while. I knew enough. They said later she'd fallen into a deep depression. That her mental state got worse and worse. That she barely spoke, barely ate. That she stared at the ceiling for hours, eyes empty, as commercials featuring smiling influencers and delivery apps played on the TV in the corner. I didn't go back again. Some things don't need repeat viewings. So that's it. That's the story of how my roommate's little money-saving trick cost me one life, cost her her face, and sent a monster back where he belonged, twice. If you're watching this on your phone, lying in bed while your own dinner sits on the nightstand, do me a favor. Pay for your food. Tip your driver. And don't ever convince yourself someone else's survival is worth less than your convenience. Because sometimes, karma doesn't just knock. Sometimes, it pounds on your door and remembers your name. That's all for today's story. Thanks for listening.